All right, let's cut through the noise. Forget the 24-hour news cycle for a second. Today, we're doing something different. We're stepping inside for an exclusive intelligence briefing to break down the signals that, frankly, almost everyone else is missing. So, picture this. We're in a secure room. The heavy doors are sealed shut. And our only job? To dissect the hidden currents, the stuff that's really moving global capital and state power. This isn't about today's headlines. No. This is about understanding the deep, powerful forces working underneath it all. Now, to get this kind of unfiltered view, you can't just rely on one person's opinion. That's why we put together a sort of coordinated advisory panel. We've got 4 specialist groups, and each one brings a totally unique and totally critical perspective to the table. Okay, so here's how it's going to work. First up, our investigative reporter, who hunts for those weird anomalies on the ground. Then, our macro and political duo steps in to connect the dots on the big tectonic shifts. After that, the skeptics. Their job is to violently stress test every popular idea out there. And finally, the executioners. They're the ones who turn all this theory into hard, actionable steps. Let's kick things off with our reporter. All right, first up, our on-the-ground intelligence from the reporter's feed. This is where we get the real story. The reporter operates where official narratives just fall apart. They're hunting for the data points that other people are actively trying to hide. And what they found? Well, it's absolutely critical. You know, right now, everyone, and I mean everyone, is obsessing over the price of oil. But the intel we're getting points somewhere completely different. The real story, the one that's being overlooked, it's literally in the dirt. Yeah, we're talking about fertilizer. And just to give you a sense of how big a deal this is, look at this number, 1/3. Right now, 1/3 of the entire global seaborne trade in fertilizer is getting choked off at the Strait of Hormuz. We're talking severe operational disruptions. This is a massive, massive bottleneck, and it has immediate global implications. And you have to understand, this is basically a ticking clock. The disruption is happening right now. If this mess isn't sorted out in, say, the next 10 to 14 days, farmers all over the world are going to miss their critical planting windows. And if that happens, just follow the dominoes. You could be looking at a potential global food and inflation crisis in just 6 to 9 months. This isn't some far-off problem. This is an immediate threat. Okay, so we've got this very specific, urgent problem with fertilizer. But how does that fit into the bigger picture? Well, that's where our macro duo comes in. Their whole job is to connect these on-the-ground facts to the huge foundational shifts happening in the global economy and in power structures. And they flagged 3 really big ones for us. First, we're in a new era of structural inflation. That means shocks like this fertilizer problem, they're going to stick around and have a much longer-lasting impact. Second, Europe is deindustrializing. And this isn't just a temporary slump, it's a structural exit, making the whole continent more vulnerable. And third, you've got the India pivot. India is emerging as this kind of quiet winner, a magnet for capital that wants stability, but is looking for a home outside of China. But here's the thing. Any idea, any narrative is only as strong as its weakest link, and that's exactly why we have the skeptics. Their job is to come in and try to break everything. They stress test all these popular stories and hunt for what they call paper tigers. You know, assets that look really powerful on the surface, but underneath, they're fundamentally weak. So let's look at a prime example, a Canadian company called Tourmaline. The market sees it as a big winner in a so-called oil war, but that's just a mask. When you look under the hood, what is it really? It's a Canadian natural gas company. It's just riding a sympathy rally with oil. Its stock is going up, even though its actual product, Canadian nat gas, is facing structurally depressed prices. It just doesn't add up. And when you look at the numbers, well, they're just damning. Analysts were forecasting a profit, right? Almost 80 cents a share. What actually happened? The company posted a loss of over $1.50. That is a massive, massive disconnect. It tells you the stock is just floating on pure sentiment, totally detached from reality. Let's just put one single brutal number on that earnings miss, negative 314%. It came in 314% below what everyone was expecting. This is the kind of fatal flaw the skeptics live to find, a classic paper tiger, totally exposed. And hey, Tourmaline isn't the only one. The skeptics also put a red flag on an energy fund, NRG. It's trading near its highs because it's got this huge war premium baked right into the price. Basically, it's priced for a world where oil stays above $100 a barrel forever. That's a really, really risky bet. Any hint of de-escalation, and that entire premium could just poof, evaporate overnight. Okay, so we've got the on-the-ground intel, we see the big macro shifts, and the skeptics have exposed the paper tigers. So the big question is, what do you actually do? This is where all that analysis turns into action. It's time to open up the executioner's playbook. First things first, you play defense. We're talking tactical trims. The playbook says to cut back your position in that energy fund, NNRG, to protect yourself if there's a sudden price crash. They also recommend trimming ZDI, which is a European dividend fund, to lower your exposure to that economic stagnation we talked about. All right, after the defense, we move to offense. Strategic, long-term allocations. So, what's the play? First, a defense tech fund, SHLD. The view is to add more to it on any pullback. Second, gold. You have to think of it as essential geopolitical insurance. And third, India. The plan is to build a solid position there over time, using any sell-offs as a chance to buy in and capture that long-term growth story. And finally, let's talk about managing risk, specifically for that paper tiger, tourmaline. The playbook here is crystal clear. Set an automatic selling point, what traders call a trailing stop at 58 Canadian dollars. Think of it as an automatic safety net. It's designed to make sure that if that war premium disappears, it doesn't turn into a real painful loss for you. And that's it. That concludes our briefing. We've covered a lot of ground, right? We went from on-the-ground anomalies all the way up to global tectonic shifts. We stress-tested some popular beliefs, and we laid out a pretty clear, actionable plan. So, the mainstream story has been put to the test. The hidden risks and the hidden opportunities are now out in the open. Really, there's only one question left to ask. What's your next move?